Okay, we're good. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm Melissa, Director of Grants and Community Engagement here at ArtsBuild. Welcome to our info session for 3 grants. Before we get started, I will give Brianna and James an opportunity to welcome you as well.
Well, hi everyone. I'm James McKissick. It's good to see you. I'm the president here at ArtsBuild. I get to work with the wonderful Melissa and Brianna on these projects. And I'm excited to see such a great group, and we're excited to try to give away a lot of money between now and the end of the year.
Hey everybody, I'm Brianna Jones, Programs and Grants Coordinator here at ArtsBuild. I'm excited about this new grant rollout and I'm happy to lend support to Melissa.
Awesome. Thank you both. If y'all might hear some noise in the background, our wonderful person who helps clean our office is here today. So if you hear anything behind me, that might be Miss Mary. I'm going to share our slides really quick. Takes me a second to share. Okay. Okay. Thumbs up that everyone can see my slides. Awesome. So as James said today, earlier, just a second ago, we have 3 grants that have launched very beautifully and rapidly. And so they are currently live as of Friday. And so today's session is we're going to walk you through each of the grants and the goals of the grants and deadlines and things of that nature, get you familiar with their application process and the funding process of this. It says January 6, 2025, but we are not at that date. I apologize for that. But most of you all will recognize that mural from Alicia Buckles and Bria Gober. They were one of the first Artist Works grant that we funded forward. And one of the grants that we're going to talk about today is Artist Works. And so the agenda basically is, I'm going to go over what ArtsBuild is. Many of you all are active partners and supporters of ArtsBuild already, but just in case, we will go over it. Then we'll go through each of the grants. We'll do questions and comments. You're welcome to unmute or put in the chat comments as we go along or save them at the end, whatever feels good with you. I have allotted about an hour and a half for this. I don't expect it to take that long. What you'll notice are 2 pictures. One is of a woman doing some art, and this was through the city of Red Bank. They received a community cultural connections grant for art classes for seniors. And the beautiful outcome of this grant was the success of that program has now lent the city of Red Bank to put art in their budget for this fiscal year. So it was a motivator for the city for their city to step up for the arts. And then Dagan Beckett, he's an Artist Work grantee of the past, and he created with his team Legacy America. If you haven't seen it, it's about the history of trains in Chattanooga and nationally in connection with community members, but specifically the Autism Center and those folks who are autistic. So ArtsBuild, the goal, the mission of ArtsBuild is to build stronger communities through the arts. And we do that in several capacities. And I'm going to move forward. This is a really handy dandy graphic that I like to use. And I'll hit grant making last because that's what we'll be talking about pretty actively today. but we focus on arts education. And what that means is, for example, next week, we have a 3-day teacher training for integrating the arts in core curricula. And we will have between 50 to 70 teachers of Hamilton County or those in surrounding schools come together to learn from 4 teaching artists and 1 local teaching artist and 1 national artist. We do shared services traditionally about every quarter. We have a workshop free to arts organizations, artists, community organizations on some professional development topic related to the arts. And then leadership development, the big is our Holmberg Arts Leadership Institute, which we kicked off last week with a new cohort of about 25 folks. They'll move forward once a month meeting and learning about all the entities of the arts and the interweavings of arts in our county. And then advocacy is a huge piece we're working on, as you all know. We're in a 2-year movement forward of helping our city, our county, talk about the importance of the arts, particularly economic impact of the arts, and trying to encourage community members and our elected officials to put arts forward in budget talks and things of that nature. And then grant making, it's kind of the core of what we do. We have several grant making programs. Many of you have received grants through us before. Our largest is our mission support grant. We're currently funding $542,000 in arts funding for 21 organizations in Chattanooga. And then as we move forward through the slides, you'll learn about 3 more of the grants that we have been consistently pushing forward into the community for the last few fiscal years or more. This study, the AEP 6 Arts and Economy Prosperity 6 study, it's almost time for us to redo it. But what it demonstrates is over $191 million is infused into our county, Hamilton County, each year, thanks to the arts. Over 3,100 jobs are activated due to the arts. And so I don't have to convince everybody in this room the economic importance of the arts. All of you know that very well, but those around you might not. And so, as you're moving forward in the world, especially when you get funding for the arts or doing arts projects in Hamilton County, knowing those numbers and talking about it really does help our full community understand the importance. And then I'm going to read this statement so it sort of imprints on our brain. ArtsBuild does not and shall not discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, creed, gender, gender expression, age, national origin, ancestry, disability, marital status, sexual orientation, or military status in any of its activities or operations. These activities include, but are not limited to, the hiring and firing of staff, selection of volunteers and vendors, and provision of funding and services. We are committed to providing an inclusive and welcoming environment for all members of our staff, clients, volunteers, subcontractors, and vendors. Okay, I'm about to go into the grants portion of this info session. Before I do so, does anybody have any questions about what I just spoke about, or comments, things of that nature? And you can come off mute. I'll give you a second. No. Okay. So in this session, we're going to talk about community cultural connections, artist works, and access and opportunities. What we do want to thank those who support us fiscally throughout the year. And so ArtsBuild individual donors, City of Chattanooga, local foundations, National Endowment for the Arts, and Tennessee Arts Commission. And these are just some graphics of old graphics, and then images of past projects that we funded. I already talked about Legacy America, but right above that picture, Miss Iantha Newton was an Artist Work grantee. And what I personally appreciated about her work is not only did she create large-scale paintings, but she put them up in the Hickson Walmart. And so it was really interesting to the brain to be at Walmart buying eggs, but also at an exhibit. And what it made me think about is who gets exposed to these high level of arts experiences and who does not. And so, you know, people going through the line at Walmart, you know, maybe don't go into the hunter as much as, let's say, I do, just because of what I do. And but they can, it's woven into their everyday life. And to see people pass by it and just stop and turn around and then look at it and kind of, you know, soak it in their brains was really interesting to watch, and also really fun to watch. And so that was really a neat experience. And then down to your left, it might be on your right, but Andrea Zoppo, she did an active theater experience, Weather is Weather. And she did events throughout the city, performing with her team. And then we have on the bottom, Crabtree Farms received a grant to do community mosaic tiles that is now living within their Evelyn Center. And then up top, you have the 10-minute play festival through Next Exit Productions. Okay, we're going to talk about community cultural connections, and those who are on this call or listen to this video really need to be aware of this particular grant, because there's a little bit a difference this round. And I'll point that out as I talk about it. The goals are the same as they have always been. You know, provide arts and cultural experiences to new and diverse audiences. By that, we mean we encourage you to spread out what you're doing throughout the county. And you'll notice in the guidelines, there's a link to the impact map that's through our website. And what that helps you see is where ArtsBuild impact has been throughout Hamilton County. And what you'll notice is a lot of it is city center. In the last few years, we've been stretching it more into Saudi and Highway 58 and Red Bank, and even over towards where Reflection Riding is and things of that nature. And we just want to keep encouraging. I know that we don't always have the biggest impact in like Ottawa, Appleton, Collegedale, and areas in that nature. So just keep that in mind. Broaden the types of arts and cultural offerings supported by the community, including established and emerging artists and arts organizations. And I'll talk about this a little further, but for this grant, for this round, you do have to be a 501c3. A nonprofit organizations. This is different than previous rounds of CCC. It is dictated by where this funding has come from. And so I'll talk about it a little further in the next slide. And then use arts and culture to strengthen community unity, demonstrate the positive economic impacts of arts and culture. So as I said, all the grants are live. So they came live on July 11th. And so CCC is going to be a little different than the other two. So the application is open until October 6th or until funding is exhausted. So for this pot of money, we're just going to keep giving it out as applications come in. So we do have reviewers who will once a month look at all the applications that have come in, make a funding decision, and then I'll do a rapid turnaround of like, you were funded, here's your letter of understanding, here's your first check, and things of that nature. Or if it's the opposite, I would make you aware that they made a choice not to fund your project at that time, at this time. So what I would say is I would not wait till October 5th to apply. Apply now, and so you can get in line to be reviewed. There is 30,000 in that pot of money. We expect to give out 15 to 17 grants, maybe 18 grants, depending on what people request. This is really important. The funding period for this is August 1, 2025, and through December 15th of this same year. There is not any stretching or grace in that, unfortunately, and that is stipulated by where this funding has come. And so December 15th is a hard close date. So many of y'all though have like September, October, November projects. That's really perfect. August is fine as long as you're like jumping on that application so we can get you reviewed. As I said, that for this grant is for Hamilton County nonprofits and community organizations. So you don't have to be an arts nonprofit. You just have to have a 501c3 that is designated in Hamilton County. And you do need a unique entity ID. And if you don't have one, no problem. You'll go to sam.gov and you will apply for one. It's free to do so. It's great. Most of you will have it, but if you don't, it's great to go ahead, because if you apply to Tennessee Arts Commission funding as well, they're going to ask for it like we do. Okay. This next slide is fairly standard with CCC. You know, it oversees a full gamut of the arts: visual, fine craft, media, performance, and literary arts. It's a up to $2,000 grant. There's no matching funds required. Let's see. What I will say is this is a great grant for an organization to bring arts to a neighborhood, to do classes for an entity of a neighborhood or within your organization, or to create, you know, to do a performance with those you serve. It can even be if, you know, a starting of a mural that the community is involved in. So the goal of this grant is to have many hands involved. It's a community-oriented grant. But it doesn't have to be sky's the limit. It's $2,000. So being realistic of what you can do with $2,000 while elevating the arts with those, for those around you that might not traditionally have that within their reach. You know, I see that Ryan's on this call. Their organization, Scenic City Shakespeare, which is the picture, they have received the CCC funding before. And if my brain remembers correctly, they used it to help provide artist stipends for their Shakespeare in the Park productions, which are always free to the public. And so it's helped them provide payment towards their artists. Before we start with Artist Works, do we have any questions about CCC, anything of that nature? Let's see. I'm just giving a second to make sure. Is anyone thinking about applying for that specific grant?
Melissa, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Are there any restrictions? Like, can this be specifically for the individuals our nonprofit serves, or does this have to be like open to the public or anything like that?
Yes. So The wording you would put in your application is, so yes, it is open to the public, but the people you serve are the public. Because I know you're Ames Center, right?
Yes, thank you so
Yes.
much. That makes sense.
Yes, because you accept as an organization the general public to be a part of. Yes, great question. Any other questions or suggestions of those from those? I feel like I might have made this up. Maybe Matt got a CCC once. I should know that. CCC is interesting because we have so many of them, so I can't always keep them in my brain. But
I did, Melissa.
yeah, you're stop.
I did last year.
Stop motion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, working with PBS.
Yes. So Matt received a grant to teach stop motion animation with kids and with PBS and all of that. He's an example of how CCC is different because he is just a citizen resident of Hamilton County, applied himself, but this round you do have to have 501c3, but we can help connect you with organizations if needed.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Melissa,
Yeah.
this is Sherry from Welcome Home. We were honored to get the grant early this year for our poet event. It meant a lot, and looking forward to. So we won't be having that event again until next year. So will there be funding, or do you think there might be funding to apply for that for next year?
That is our hope. We're putting everything in place to be able to announce some spring funding in early winter is my guess. We do have to do sort of the dance before we can announce. I'm hopeful that we will be able to release CCC funding definitely in the spring. If we'll have other grants, more individual artist grants, that is to be determined. But I'm going to be the optimist in the room and say, yes, hopefully. But definitely CCC. So those with the spring projects, keep them in mind. It'll be pretty much the same application. You can go ahead and get your brains churning for the spring because yeah, if it all comes together, which I think it will, late November, early December, we'll announce something.
Okay. We have some mural ideas here on our property. I don't know if that would be appropriate for this grant, but if so, do you all have artists that you recommend, or is it?
Yeah.
Do you have matchmaking?
What we can do is, yeah. So we don't ever recommend a specific artist, but we do have lists of artists that we've worked with successfully, whether that was within a program or within a funding situation and things of that nature. And also we have a list of all the muralists who did the EPB substation murals. There's 30 of them. Some overlapped, but so there's probably about 20 muralists. So we definitely can send, names of folks, and then you would just go through the list and find the person that, y'all that meet each other's needs. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And you segue into a perfect grant. The artist work grant is what I'm going to talk about next, and it would be great for murals as well. So it is a grant that provides funding to an artist or a group of artists, resulting in a project that results in a performance or an exhibit that's free of charge and open to the entire community. Note that, just because one has to be free for the entire community, you could have other like concerts or classes that are paid entry. And so in Artist Works, a nonprofit can work in conjunction with a lead artist or a group of artists. And so, for example, if a mural is happening, an artist can create the mural, they can engage with community, you can have an unveiling, which would be your ending exhibit and things of that nature, or Artist Works. I'm going to pick on Ryan, Scenic City Shakespeare again, because I can see his name here. They have in the past gotten Artist Work Grant, you know, and successfully has moved through that and is helping to pay their artists as well. So the goal of Artist Work is to infuse the local creative economy with various project-related purchases tied to creation, installation, and documentation of arts projects. You know, really this grant was born out of COVID, a recognition that loss of audience, loss of jobs for artists, and you know, artists live within families, live within households that need money to live, and their work disappeared. And so that is how this program was birthed, and then has continued, because the philosophy of artists deserve to be paid is an ongoing foundational philosophy of ArtsBuild and Hamilton County, as the AEP6 study demonstrated for the economic impact of the arts. So this, you know, all our grants do need to happen within Hamilton County, Tennessee. You know, and for this grant, enhancing and animating outdoor and indoor public spaces, creating access to a diversity of artists and arts experiences, open art to community members who are traditionally underserved in this realm. And then, you know, a collective prompting of hope, healing, and connection for Chattanoogan's. And so this one as well is open via our website, and I'll jump over to our website at some point to show you. And this one closes August 8th. So if y'all do the little counting out, it's 4 weeks, which is shorter than our traditional 6-week application open time frame. So I really wanted to emphasize 4 weeks from pretty much today or Friday. These projects run September 1 through December 15th. So you do have time to kind of get your brains churning. Let's say you already have something on the books for October, and you're still, so it's a new project, but you've already done a lot of the legwork of figuring out what that will look like and things. You can apply for this. It doesn't have to be like today you think of a project and go forward with doing the application. I know several of y'all have fall arts programming that I know that maybe there's component parts that don't have funding yet. You can, and as long as it has an exhibit and a performance at the end for the public to enjoy, you know, and I think of an entity such as AIM Center that maybe your members do something, and then because y'all tend to be a closed space, is for your members and also your workers, you could find a place to do an exhibit, like let's say at Clear Story or here at ArtsBuild or at the library, things like that. So there's a way around. You could be really creative with this grant. Who's eligible? Group of artists, a lead artist, Hamilton County. We will say that because we're a border state, if an artist lives right over the border in a county that touches Hamilton County, you can apply. It just, we do just need the project to happen in Hamilton County. So Catoosa County, Ray County, Sequatchie County, all of the artists in those areas are welcome to apply. And then if you're an arts organization applying, you do have to, again, emphasize in Hamilton County, Tennessee, or adjacent as long as it happens. Same artistic disciplines, visual, fine craft, media, performance, and literary arts. It's interesting, we you know, we don't get as much fine craft or literary arts proposals. And so if anybody's on the Zoom has some ideas for that, that would be a unique ones for our reviewers to see. We do get a fair number of visual performances, full range, dance, music, theater, vocal, concerts, things of that nature. We've done recently a fair amount of film. We haven't gotten a huge amount of photography lately. But you know, also don't forget ceramics, pottery is one we traditionally don't get a lot of applications for, which would fall within visual. This one is up to 5,000. We do expect about 9 to 11 to be funded. You don't, no matching funds are required. Any questions about artist works?
I have another question. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
If we were going to, I'm thinking through a bunch of ideas right now. So hypothetically, if we were going to partner with another arts organization in town for a joint project, could both of us apply for this funding for the same project?
Yes, in the past, we have had that happen. We have not yet in the last 3 years had both applications funded. But what they did was a clear delineation on which grant is paying for what. So like, you know, one organization's applying for artist fees and the other was applying for venue marketing, things like that. So there was no cross overlap or double dipping of funds.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay. I'll move over to access and opportunity. So the goal of this grant is to create access to resources for artists traditionally not funded or traditionally underfunded. And so how this grant was birthed was we recognized that ArtsBuild funding wasn't as reflective of the faces of Hamilton County as it needed to be. At that time, only 20% was, you know, reflective, and we needed to move that more towards 40% represented. You know, at that time we were looking at BIPOC artists, Black and Brown and Latinx, and you know, a group of humans that aren't traditionally at the funding table. And then we've expanded it even beyond race and ethnicity. We this current round that's going on right now is for artists who have a disability or disabilities, and they're running through this year on their grants. And so this current funding will be for artists who are veterans or artists who are working with veterans and or their families. So it's fairly broad, but it's also has a focus on veterans. I will say, technically this grant is open to all artists. We are particularly inviting those who are veterans, those who work with veterans and their families. So the goal is to provide established and emerging diverse, sorry, I was reading the chat. Thanks, Sharita. Provide support to established and emerging diverse artists, broaden the type of artists supported by the community, and ensure the distribution of financial and capacity building resources to artists. Very similar to Artist Works, July 1 or July 11th through August 8th, same granting period, September 1 through December 15th. So I'll talk a little more about who's eligible. So we're really focusing on emerging and or established artists. So emerging would be artists who are at the beginning of their careers. Established is those whose primary income does come from their artwork. All our grants are for 18 years or older folks. And as you'll see, it breaks down, you know, either you're a veteran or you work with veterans and their families. Scenic City Clay Arts is a prime example of an organization that not through our funding particularly, but through, I believe, Tennessee Arts Commission, they've held programs for veterans and their families to get their hands in clay and experience that type of art. Similar to Artist Works, access and opportunity is up to 5,000. It's 9 to 11 grants, going to be funding, no matching required. This is a great one where you can, the artist, the goal is to engage in a new project. For this grant, there doesn't have to be a finality of the project. It just needs an artist to move forward an idea that maybe they could never have done without funding. And this is giving them the opportunity to move forward an idea, a project. So it can be used to buy equipment and supplies. It can be, you know, you go to a conference or, you know, workshops and things of that nature to help start with a project. And why I say that out loud, because it's different from Artist Works. Artist Works is one, there's a finality, there's a concluding exhibition or a performance. So the project started and it completed. But with access and opportunity, you're pushing the dial forward on a project. Now, if you get it done, that's awesome, but that's not a requirement. We need to see growth versus, you know, completion of a specific project. Are there questions about that? And I can give examples if needed. Let's see.
Wait, I don't know if this would be considered art, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
We have our Demystifying Death program called Death Over Dinner. And we do that in part at the Crabtree Farm is kind of our partner in that we hold it there at Crabtree Farms. Would a Death Over Dinner, I don't know if that'd be considered an artistic event.
What the one thing I think of when I think of that is I haven't been, but let's say you have a musician or a live painter who applies for the grant, and that's a concluding moment for them. So let's say there's a musician who creates music, you know, original pieces, and then at the event, you use them as, you know, the music for the guests or the folks in participating, or the live painter could prep towards that being the culminating event. You know, what it would require, like that event to have some capacity for people who cannot afford to attend. So maybe some of the funding goes towards attendance or scholarships or things of that nature.
Yes, we always make our events inclusive. We always offer scholarships. But I love the idea of jazz, adding music, or even adding someone painting during I've been to events where someone paints during the event, what they're hearing and seeing, and then that's produced, you know, at the end of the event.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, thank you. And you're welcome to come to our Death Over Dinner.
Excellent, thank you. And Teen asked a great question. There's some of you who were on here through who are mission support grantees. The only grant mission support grant, ArtsBuild mission support grantees cannot apply for directly is the community cultural connections. That said, an organization, I see Welcome Home. Welcome Home could apply for CCC and contract in an arts organization, even if they are getting mission support funding, because it's Welcome Home as the applicant. Any other questions before I move forward? Looks like, so examples. And then, yes, Crabtree Farms does have a venue space that can be used. Lauren, some examples of, examples of access and opportunity? So the current one is with artists with disabilities. And so we do have an artist who's low vision, almost no vision. He is a woodworker, and he did not have the equipment to be able to continue his art due to economics, and the funding provided special tools so he can move forward with his art. And he'll at some point have a showing of his work, of what he's produced in this last year. So that's an example. Does that help?
It does, yeah. Is there a limitation to how many artists this grant can support if we were to apply as the AIM Center?
So traditionally, the Access and Opportunity Grant is applied for by one artist.
Right.
So any of your folks over there can apply for it. So Artist Works, the other one is where a group of artists can come together. They would probably have a lead artist who's helping to manage the project in conjunction with the AIM Center, but
Okay.
it can be a collective whole of more than one artist.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And eventually I'll show you all where the guidelines and the applications are. And now I'm going to come back to that, but this QR code, which I'm going to send everybody the slides at the end, is where you access our grants website, submit. And so things we encourage: reading the guidelines thoroughly. And that seems like well, of course, but I really do emphasize that because it is your roadmap to how to write your grant. We've worked really hard to make it very clear on who's eligible, deadlines, expectations, the rubric for how the grant reviewers will read and score the grants. And then jump on the application. It says explore it early. I would say explore it right now, today, because it's going to run really, really quickly. And then communicate with ArtsBuild staff with questions. So reach out to me via phone or email. I'm willing to do a draft review. You don't have to send me anything. All you like in terms of the application, all you do is shoot me an email that says, "Hey, Melissa, ready for a draft review," because I can jump into the system and see everything in real time and give you feedback. It's the best when you're pretty much done with the application. I'd say between 90 to 100% done. And I'll read through it and give feedback that you can take or leave as you see fit. And then the budget is really important to double check the budget and to make sure what you're talking about in the application matches the budget template. And then ask a friend or a colleague or one of your kids or your husband, wife, or partner to read the application to see if they can understand the thought process from A to Z. They're probably going to be able to, if they're not in the thick of it, they'll be able to see it a little more clearly and in a more unbiased manner so they can give some feedback to you. Many of y'all have been part of our grant reviews before. It's myself nor Brianna or James, we do not make the decision. We collect community members to be on the different panels, and they read and score the grants. And they help make the funding decision. And I see on this call, there are several folks here who have been grant reviewers, and we do about a 1 hour training, and then everything's virtual. You read and score from your couch watching Netflix and petting cats and all the things. It's really easygoing. And then at the end, most of them have a grants panel where you come and hear from the applicant and do some final scoring. We do always do conflict of interest. Chattanooga is a small place. We weave very wovenly, and we make sure there aren't conflicts of interest on our grants panels. For example, if your husband is applying, you probably wouldn't be on that panel because that would be a conflict of interest. You definitely would not be. And then the process goes, panel happens, we get final scores, it moves through an allocations process. And then I send out emails saying, congratulations, you were recommended for funding and all the next steps. And if you were not recommended for funding, I send an email saying such. And we tend to try to support folks in that point and say, hey, here are some other ideas of funding. Because the reality is, we currently have a grant that we're doing through the Tennessee Arts Commission. The amount of requests is triple than the amount of money we have to give out. And so that's the reality. We have so many amazing ideas and projects in Chattanooga related to arts and culture, and not enough funding. And so just be aware of that. All of these are competitive, but we'll do draft reviews. I will support you. And if it becomes where I need a handoff to one of my coworkers like Brianna to help with draft reviews, we will do that. So never feel hesitancy in asking for support. Before I jump over to our grants website, does anybody have any questions? Okay, I will jump. See if I can get over there. I've been doing Zoom for 5 years and I'm still trying to figure it out. Okay, here we are. We are at, this is the back end. This is what you will see it a little differently as a front end user, but I'm going to look at community cultural connections to give you an idea. So the face sheet will do opening and closing deadlines, the basic description. You'll see to almost ad nauseum where I've said grants guidelines, grant guidelines, grant guidelines, because truly that is the golden ticket for knowing how to write your application. I am going to see if I can pull up. Okay. Can you all, through thumbs up, tell me if you can see the guidelines? All the videos are off. Let's see. Or verbally say.
I can see it.
Okay, great. So this is the guidelines for community cultural connections. What you'll notice is a summation and the goals, which I talked about, funding request amount, application deadlines, granting periods, who's eligible. So we went through all of that. All of the guidelines are pretty standardized in that capacity. It talks about accessibility and disciplines and things of that nature. So what type of projects? So this is community cultural connections, CCC. So like one day workshops, art arts and cultural classes, trips to cultural resources, for example, like going to the Hunter, the ballet, or Barking Legs, or even transportation out to see Scenic City Shakespeare this October when they do their production run. What project expenses are eligible? And this is pretty much across the board of most of our grants. So local artists and arts organization fees, supplies and small equipment, local transportation, rental costs, marketing, documentation, which means like a videographer, whatever's related to the photography of the event and things of that nature, and a project director fee, like who's writing the grant, who's managing, overseeing everything. And it might not be an artist, it might be Lauren at the Ames Center. She's a prime example of managing the grant that's happening. Project expenses that are not eligible, which is across the board for all of our grants. It can't be to fund a permanent staff position of an organization. I will say that if you're a staff of an organization and a percentage of your pay is directly moving forward that project, that counts. It's just not an umbrella of paying for staff. Capital improvements, major equipment purchases, that's anything above $750, give or take. Seed money to start new organizations, in-school projects. This is a question we get a lot. So this one, it cannot happen in the school day. I do know Tennessee's Arts Commission does have project grants that are happening in the fall that will open up if you have school related in-school time projects. Fundraisers, and for this round of CCC, because of where the money has originated, cannot go towards food and drinks. And that's different from years past, so just keep that in your brains. We've talked about grant priorities, the mapping, where you can see where the impact of not just where our funding has gone, but where different art and climate artists have been located, Periscope participants and things of that nature, folks who have participated in our Tech Goes Home for the artists classes and things of that nature. And then you'll notice on all three guidelines, there is a grant evaluation criteria, which is really a lot of big words, just saying how the reviewers will look at applications and score them. And each are basically the same. All will involve artistic quality and cultural experience, like the artistic merit of your project and the impact on the community.
Hey, Melissa.
Yeah.
Quick question. Is it possible, I might have missed it, or might have misheard, can this grant be used to purchase tickets to shows for like students to come and see theatrical performances in the theater?
Yes, it can.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What other questions as I'm pulling up the application? Okay, so this is what traditionally you will see. I'm going to apply. We're going to use this. It's going to send you through some pretty basic profile things, and then it's going to get you started. It's going to prompt you, say, hey, are you a 501c3 with a UEI number? And you just poke through everything. Like, we do need specific dates because it's such a quick turnaround grant. All of them are such quick turnarounds, and there's a hard stop date. Tell us about your project, from a grant. So I have experience on this funding side, but I also started my career as a grant writer. And the biggest piece of advice I could give you is, this is a business proposition. And so you want to convey that you can successfully start and finish the project. We definitely want your heart and your passion in the application, but we don't want just that, because artists are very passionate and very heart driven. You also want to make sure that the nuts and bolts are in there, that the reviewers can say, wow, they are very excited. And also they have an address of where it's going to be. They have a timeline. They can do their budget. They're realistic in that. Yeah, so it's just really going through, and you'll see on the right hand of the screen with a list of the questions. And what I would suggest is oh, this is a great point. When you're going through it, I would go through the entire application before you start answering. But this prompted me to say, not all the questions are typed. Some can be video. So a lot of the longer answers, let's say typing in the written word is just not as accessible, or your easy space, right? But video, you're like, I'm great at talking and I'm great at videoing. I'm going to do it as a video. And so a lot of the narrative questions give you that option. I'll show you once I get to one. A lot of the smaller questions. Okay. Describe your planning process for the project. You may do written or video. So I'm going to hit video. And just so you know, like, this is what you can do a practice. You can skip it. I have set it where you can record it and delete it as many times as you need. Because if you're like me, those first 3 times are going to be very awkward, but the 4th one is going to be perfect. And so don't worry about, practicing and things of that nature. And just really show who you are on the videos. Everybody knows who's reviewing, knows that you're a human. Probably a nervous human. So when you do your videos, plan them and have all the component parts, but just know that there are kind and compassionate humans reading these applications. And then just go through, there's about 20 questions. Most are like, hey, what's your name? They're not a lot of long ones. Because of where this funding has originated, you need to do Title VI. We go ahead and do it in the application, things of that nature. Any questions about the application, or anybody who has done one of our applications through Submit who can say, hey, this is what I liked, or this is what I didn't like, but this is how I got around or made it easier? Because we will admit, Submit's not the perfect grant system. None of them are. There's little things that I love about it, and there's a few things that I wish could be changed but can't be changed. So is there anybody who can give tips or tricks to that?
I have another question. It's not a tip or a trick. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I feel like I'm asking all the questions. Are we allowed to apply for all 3? And if possible, are we eligible to win all 3?
Yeah, I mean, you could apply for all 3. You would be only ineligible if you were awarded all 3 and it double dipped. So if it was for the same project, and same line items. So like paying the same artist in the 2 grants for the exact same thing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a tip.
Yeah.
Melissa, every time as the deadline is coming up, Melissa will send out an email to people that have like a draft, or people she knows that are doing the grant. So reach out to Melissa, let her know that you're applying, so that she knows you're applying, so that she'll send you that email that says, hey, don't forget to submit your grant. Also, I'll read a draft and let her do that draft review every single time. Can you still hear me? You're okay, yes. Every single time that draft review comes back with some note that is helpful. Melissa is great at what she does.
Thanks, Ryan.
No problem. But yeah, always go for the review before you submit.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I do draft reviews from the eye of a reviewer. And so I'm looking from a perspective of like, maybe what would a reviewer question versus me as a human who works in the arts and participates in the arts a lot. I pretend that I'm not quite as well versed in the arts because most reviewers are not don't have the spectrum that I personally have, just nature of what I do. And so, you know, I'll notice things like, oh, they probably need more clarification here to truly understand, or I'll help you fix your budget. That's the big one. I will say, the one picky thing we have for our applications is we require that you use our budget template. It is a Word document that you poke in the numbers. If you need any support in that, 100% I'll help you. But you will not be eligible to be reviewed if you have not used that template. That's the only sticking point. We have really big sticking point for our application. It helps our reviewers to have a standardized look at all the budgets. It's less confusing for them. They tend to have a better experience when that one budget sheet is used because they're not stretching their brains too much trying to figure things out. Darren asked about neighborhood associations. There are some that are a 501c, some that are not. Where they can fall in is they can work with an artist, either an artist works or access an opportunity. If they are not a 501c3, unfortunately, they're not eligible for this round of community cultural connections, but there might be a nonprofit who would partner with that organization, not a neighborhood association. We've had in the last year one who has applied for CCC and successfully created and finished the project through that grant program. And it was a great experience for everyone.
Melissa, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you all have budgets? So you said the applicants have to use your budget template. Do you all have like a mini session, a workshop? It doesn't have to be long, but do you all have a session where you can walk anyone who wants to learn more about that and how to fill it out, walk them through that process? Because I know, you know me, and I've been on the grant committee. I was on the grant committee for like 8 years. And I'm very familiar with the fact that sometimes the applicants, they don't necessarily think in numbers, so they don't, some of them may have a harder time filling it out.
Yeah, and so I've pulled up our budget form. This is the same for all of our applications other than mission support. And it's well written in a way that if you read through it, you should be able just to chunk in the numbers. Now, if someone needed help understanding what venue costs would be, or what would an artist fee be, or things of that nature, and need to run those type of numbers by me, that's definitely can be done. But this is form, if I think y'all can see it, I'm sharing it. So, they just put their name. You'll see here where it says ArtsBuild grant, you would put in what funding. And so as you see underneath, there's a line item, and I'm going to say, so this is income. This is anything that you're given to do the project or that you have. So I'm going to say it's an organization that has existing fees and they have $1,500. What they to go towards this project. Let's say they only have two, and I'm going to say, I'll pick on Ryan again, Scenic City Shakespeare. So they're saying that their project is 3,500. Does that make sense? So then there is 2 expense tables. One is specific to this grant, like so they have requested $2,000. And so that total should be 2,000. And all of this description of expense and the amount should add up to the total. So that's what the ArtsBuild grant will pay for. So let's, there's still $1,500 that will make the project, right? But that's outside of the grant funding. But it's still, there are still expenses involved. So I'm gonna say that this $1,500 is artist fees. So you're noticing like right here is equaling right here. And this, so the 2 expense tables are adding up to the income table. Does that help anyone? Or make it more confusing, maybe? I use this every day, so if it...
Yeah, Melissa, that's I appreciate what you've shown here. And that's what I'm saying is that
Yeah.
like you're like how you just said, you're used to using that almost every day or regularly. And for the applicants who are probably not used to using that, and it may look simple and it may sound simple, but I really think it would benefit people who are interested in applying for any of your grants. If this is the standard budget template that you use for all of them, I think it would be beneficial for the public, for anybody who's wanting to apply for an ArtsBuild grant, to have just what you just did, like a mini session. It could be a Zoom. It doesn't have to be at ArtsBuild in person, but I think this would be very, very helpful for future. I'm just speaking for the applicants. You know, I'm an advocate, so I'm just I'm speaking for the applicants because I've seen where they have trouble sometimes. You know, trying to figure out these things, not necessarily the numbers, but the specific items, the way that it's worded on the documents. If I'm making sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and
thank you.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of the draft review or the availability of staff. You know, you're welcome. Anybody is welcome to reach out. I have been known to be on the phone with humans and doing the budget with them.
Absolutely.
So we're always available. We can help you upload things. It's a learning process, especially CCC can be a learning curve for new orgs, applying for grants and things of that nature.
Yeah, and that's what I was like. I was just going for like maybe that there's an official like day or dates where you have a Zoom, perhaps a Zoom session, much like this one, where you can kind of facilitate that with those who are interested in learning more about that budget process, because it is a process in itself. So
absolutely.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. What other questions? You know, what you've learned today is 3 grants, what their priorities are, where to find the application, you know, and the guidelines.
Melissa, just one more question. The granting period, I know for the CCC, it says September 1st through December 15th. Does the project need to be during those dates as well?
The reality is, as long as projects are done by December 15th, 2025.
Got it.
Yeah, the hard is us getting in the applicant for CCC, getting in the applications and getting them reviewed quick enough to get you moving forward. That's the one we dance with the most, because it's until funds are out. The other 2 are like deadline ends, and then there's a review period, and then there's a panel. So that's a little more linear.
Got it.
So yeah.
Okay, nope, that helps answer my question. Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions? I am going to send all of you the slides from the day, the recording, if you need to listen to it again. I'll go ahead, thank you, Nicole, and send the budget form so you can look at it and mull over it over the week and see where I can be supportive. Lee Grisham, is there a separate application for this period after December? Are you referring to any grants that would happen after this set of grants are done? I would assume yes. Yes. So any of the grants, so project 20, the 2026 projects, yes, those applications have not been released. So these are specific to this summer and fall, things of that nature. Thank you, Lee, for the clarification. All our applications for these type of grants are very similar. So when you're looking at these and hoping that we do have funding for 2026 spring, just know that you can just start, even, you know, pull down the application and do it in a Word document, because it's not going to change very much. Okay, any other questions? It did take us over an hour. Okay. I'm gonna hit unrecord, or didn't stop recording. I don't know. Maybe it stopped recording. It might still be recording, so watch what you say. I think it's going to end when we end. What other questions? Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Lee. Okay, great. I think we're fairly done. I'm going to send a follow-up email today and jump on that and reach out as you need, because we're here to support y'all. Thank you.